Knowing your symptoms, knowing your narcolepsy can really help you not only structure your life, but also enact some sort of contingencies when you're able to identify your symptoms a lot better. Things like knowing when your symptoms are the worst, what time of day, how many hours after waking up, can really help. And knowing sort of times when it can flare up, things that can flare it up, things that can make it worse, can really help. Living with this condition is hard enough, planning is hard enough. So, like most of us, we're at that part of our journey at the start where we've just been diagnosed, and the only complaint we have is we're sleepy all the time. We haven't thought about, when we're sleepy. We just, all we're focusing on is the fact that we are sleepy. Well, knowing why we do certain things at certain times and why we feel how we feel at certain times can really help you to work with your narcolepsy instead of against it, instead of stabbing in the dark and sort of not really having much of a plan, or knowing very little about sort of why your symptoms happen when they happen can really make your life feel very chaotic. So one big example for me is, same thing that I just talked about. I got diagnosed and my main complaint was being tired all the time. They gave me some medication. Medication didn't really work as well. There is no quick fix. There is no fix-all kind of medication out there yet. So I was in this chaos of I'm tired all the time, I'm taking this medication, and I'm not able to plan anything. Some days I'm getting things done, some days I'm not. So it really made me have a really good look about why I do certain things, why I feel certain ways. One for me was, I've always done this because I've had narcolepsy since I was a kid, but I would always eat when I was most awake, and I would eat everything all at once because I would get scared that I'd be too tired to eat later, which would usually be the case. So for as long as I can remember, I've always eaten one meal a day, and I didn't know why that was. I thought it was just preference, or maybe a health kick that I sort of saw online, but actually it ties in pretty conclusively with my narcolepsy. So understanding that was a really big help, because I thought I had some sort of eating disorder, some eating issue. And I tested that out. I tried to eat 3 meals a day like normal people, and I couldn't get it done because I can't eat when I'm sleepy, when I'm having a sleep attack, or when my excessive daytime sleepiness is particularly bad. So it's that fear of being too tired to eat. So knowing that really set my mind at ease. It helped, and it does help me as well with my life. I don't have to stress thinking, have I eaten enough today? So that was one. Another one for me is knowing what being sleepy feels like compared to being awake. I wasn't able to make a distinction at the start, but I do now, and it really came to head when I started thinking about how I feel in my body when I'm tired. And a few pointers for me were, my eyes would feel heavy. They would almost feel like they were in an oven, because I guess they're dry and painful, or I'm feeling pain because I'm keeping them open when they want to close. That's a big one for me. And right now I've started having my excessive daytime sleepiness and sleep attack. You can tell because my eyes are, like this. And another thing for me was realizing that first symptom for me hits roughly about 4 hours after I wake up. That helps me to realize that I've got 4 hours to get really important stuff done, because that's when I'm most awake. I couldn't identify that before. I was kind of just aimlessly trying to get things done at weird times and not always being able to get it done. So I know I've got 4 hours, 4 good hours. Sometimes I get 2 hours. I judge it by the eyes. Another thing to keep in mind is also realizing behaviors as well. Behaviors can be big indicators of when your symptoms are beginning, which can be really helpful because you can develop your contingencies as soon as you're able to identify it. So one for me is I will say no to an invitation or an appointment, or if someone's just asked me to do something, I'll say no. And before I was diagnosed, I didn't know why I did that. I thought I was just really antisocial, but I've come to realize that I can't think properly, and I can't contribute to conversations, and that's around that time I'm sleepy. So if I automatically shut someone down straight away, that will be because I know I'm not in the best condition to take someone up on that offer. But before I was able to identify this, I thought I was just a bit of an asshole. But I realise now that it's to do with my narcolepsy. Everything comes back to narcolepsy, but realising why can be really helpful to understand these things. And as a rule of thumb for me, now that I've been able to identify when I'm most wakeful, I spend those 4 hours getting up, tidying, going to the gym if I need to. That's 2 hours gone. Running around getting some errands done for the next hour. And then the last hour, sometimes it gets cut short, but last hour is preparing for the next day, getting food ready for the next day, getting a few tasks done so that I can pick up on them the next day. So that's been really helpful, because before that I was just aimlessly trying to do things, especially trying to do things when I was tired, and it was chaos. So 4 hours isn't a lot, but I'm doing a lot better than I would have been if I wasn't able to identify my symptoms and when they were happening, and what to look out for. Sometimes the eyes don't go for me straight away, so I have to rely on other things. Like, I might feel my shoulders slump. That's another one. That's another sign for me. If I can feel my shoulders slump, or I start walking a bit slower than usual, that helps me to identify it as well. There's been a lot of times when I've been out somewhere or out shopping and sleep attacks hit, and I haven't been able to get home. But sometimes I've been able to catch it. I've been able to, 45 minutes before, start feeling my eyes starting to droop, and then I realise, okay, I've got to stop what I'm doing and I need to get home right now, because in 45 minutes I'm going to be incapacitated for an unknown amount of time. Could be the whole day, could be an hour, could be 15 minutes, who knows. But, it means that I have a plan as soon as I notice my symptoms. So it's really helped me to have some sort of a structure to my life, some sort of a ability to predict. This is an unpredictable condition, but there are some predictabilities, and they are all in the symptoms, and knowing what you're going to do depending on the symptom you're getting. So I hope this has helped, just realising these little things, realising, having a look at your behaviours Do they change suddenly? What happens when you do this, this, this? You know, for me, if I sit down too long, I get sleepy and I can't get out of it. So, you know, in those 4 hours I talked about, I make sure if I'm going to do something that might trigger sleepiness, I'll do it in the last hour. Because if I do it at the start, then I'm screwed for the rest of the day. So, you know, knowing what makes your symptoms worse, sitting down for too long makes mine worse. So I make sure that I don't do that at the start of the day. I think that's it. If I can think of any more, I'll post. But yeah, just thinking, and you know, one that I've spoken about quite a lot actually before I go is my mood. My mood drops when I start to get sleepy, or especially when a sleep attack happens. So if my mood drops and I'm starting to get snappy, I know that, you know, I need to go lay down. Before that, I would just try and grit through. I'd try and pretend, you know, I'd hold all this sort of moodiness inside and just put on a happy face, and then suffer for it. Suffer internally, emotionally, psychologically. I don't do that anymore. As soon as I feel that mood swing, the eyes droop, the shoulders start to feel heavy, I'm out. And knowing that I need to do that helps a lot, rather than trying to push through, trudge through, and suffer even more internally, socially, relationships, just all of that, you know. Just being able to put your hand up and you know, say, I've got to stop right now. And being able to do that for yourself. At the start, that might be really, really challenging to admit that you need to go and rest. You might not be able to justify that to yourself yet, because you might not be able to identify your symptoms and causes. But when you are able to, it gets a lot easier. People are still not going to understand. People are still going to be upset, confused, annoyed. But this is all about keeping yourself safe. This is all about developing an awareness so that you can act accordingly in your best interest, to keep yourself safe, to rest. Rest is better than no rest. There's such a thing as too much rest, but knowing when you need to rest. So these things can help.